How do you go from selling drilling rigs to becoming an elite contractor in the roofing industry? John McHughes started out in oil and gas, but after a surprising encounter, his life took an unexpected turn into roofing. Today, he's leading Mallard Construction and 4-Star General Contracting with a passion for belly-to-belly sales and real customer service. In this episode, we're diving into John's story of transitioning industries, scaling a business, and building trust with customers through face-to-face interactions. John, once an oil and gas entrepreneur, is now one of the top contractors in the nation, having built a reputation for excellence and integrity. What makes John's story so truly unique is his relentless pursuit of customer satisfaction. From his early days knocking on doors to mastering the art of roofing. In today's episode, you'll hear about his journey, his methods for success, and why personal connection is still the king in sales. Let's dive in with John McHughes from Mallard Roofing. Welcome to the Roofing Success Podcast. I'm Jim Ahlin, and I'm here to bring you insights from top leaders in the roofing industry to help you grow and scale your roofing business. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. Hit those buttons, leave the reviews, like, follow, comment, leave a review. My phone number is in the description. Send me a text. Tell me what you like to hear, what we're doing well, even what we're doing bad. If you think we're doing a bad job, send that over too. Today we got John McHughes from Mallard Construction and 4-Star General Contracting. How you doing today, man?
Doing fantastic. Doing awesome. How about you?
I'm doing great. John, how did you get into the roofing industry?
Well, actually, I was originally in the oil and gas space, so I kind of did the dial for dollars. I had the old white note cards that had, name, address, and phone number and what a guy's home was worth. And so I did that for about 7 years, and I opened up my own oil and gas company with my uncle. We drilled and operated wells. That kind of merged into a manufacturing company where we manufactured subs and derricks for drilling rigs. And at some point, the oil and gas business is just up and down, up and down. It's kind of like hailstorm, no hailstorm. And we had a guy come in our office, and, he really liked everything that we did, and he made us an offer, so we sold out. How I kind of got in the roofing space from that is we had a guy come in and he said, "Hey, I want to buy a drilling rig." And we could tell that he was not an oil and gas guy, just was kind of a different kind of cat. And we were like, "Well, those are about $20 million. And he's like, "Oh, no big deal. My dad's roofing company did 60 million last year." And so I kind of put that in my back pocket and I didn't really think about it for very long and kind of moved on. But then we sold, and I was kind of sitting around doing nothing. I owned a lot of rental property at the time, so I kind of started a company to maintain that. And so I physically did some of the roofs on my own, up there tearing off shingles, replacing decking, and doing all that. And I also, before I did oil and gas, I was a door-to-door Kirby vacuum salesman. So, a guy that was roofing with me is like, "You know what? You should start a roofing company." And I was like, I'm not really doing anything. I guess, why not? I'll give it a shot. And so I remember the neighborhood in Norman, Oklahoma, I went over to and just kind of started knocking on doors. Didn't know what I was doing. First door I knocked on, the little old lady let me up on the roof, and I got on the roof, and I was like, "Man, this roof is destroyed," but I didn't know if it was hail damage. I didn't know anything. I had it was a farmer's claim, and the lady came out, and, we're going through the whole thing, and she's like, "You're new at this, aren't you?" And I'm like, yeah, how'd you guess? And so she actually kind of took me under her wing and, just walked me through it. She was a resource for me for a long time. I could call her up. She had pretty high level. She may have been a GA or something like that at the time. And so she just kind of helped me and walked me through it all. And then I kind of started going through all the different, what do I want if I was having my roof done? And so then I started building my company that way. And I wanted to partner with, big brands like GAF, and, we started building a relationship with them, and now we're a master elite contractor. And So that's kind of my short story of how I got started from oil and gas to property management to maintenance, and then into the roofing space.
That's awesome, man. So was Mallard first, the residential side?
Yes, it was. So it was originally set up in my name, so it was McHughes Enterprises LLC.
Uh-huh.
And you know how everybody kind of starts, and then as we started to grow and stuff like that, because I really, like I said, I was kind of semi-retired, and I just wanted to hunt, so I was like, what can I do in the summer to offset my addiction of hunting? Because I literally would hunt every day of duck season. And so my wife's brother, he was a marketer. I think at the time he was working for AOL, if everybody remembers AOL back in the day. And he goes, man, what are you going to do with your company? I said, what do you mean? And he goes, well, you're going to scale it? And I go, I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it. I'm just enjoying hunting. And he goes, well, what's your favorite thing to do? And I said, well, hunt. And he goes, what do you like to hunt? And I said, ducks. And he goes, what's your favorite duck? And I said, mallard. And he goes, I'll have you a logo tomorrow. and so he made me two different logos. If you see my logo, we went with the one that's got the gradient, and it's got a triangle in the back, so it looks like a roof to me. He had done two. He had done one with a triangle and one with an arch, so it looked like a sun. And I said, man, you got to throw something in there that looks like roofing. So just throw that triangle in there. And so that's what we did. And we rebranded. That was back in 2009 when we rebranded. So we had been in business for since 2000. And so it kind of, but we had really operated under the radar. We weren't really doing it, commercial, like out to the public. It was kind of friends and family stuff. So in 2009 we rebranded. We were actually working up like in Owasso and Sperry, which is up around the Tulsa area of Oklahoma. And then obviously doing some stuff around Norman Moore. And then the storm that everybody in roofing knows about hits Moore, Oklahoma. And in 2010, when they had softball size hail and holes in decking and all that stuff. And so it just literally within like 48 hours, I'd never seen so many roofers in Oklahoma. And, it all stems from a video of, I can't remember if it was a pool or the lady's pond in her backyard. And, the hail's falling and just like 5 foot, 6 foot splashes. And dude, it was there. I remember there was a Burger King or something. And I think I counted like 18 different states at one lunch, and it was really chaotic because at the time I only had like 2 or 3 salesmen, and I can't remember the company that they worked for, but I think it was Excel out of like Minnesota. They came and knocked on my door, and not at the house, but at the office. Yeah. And the guy said, hey, if you'd be interested in a commission structure change, I've got a bunch of guys. And I said, I'm kind of the opportunist, I'll try anything once. And I said, I'll try anything once. And so literally he brought 17 guys with him, and Mallard changed overnight.
Wow. One good storm can change a company, right?
Yeah. And so I went from hunting every day of duck season to literally the last few years, I haven't hunted ducks at all. And that's a good and bad thing. It's once the company kind of, and in 2010, I went from, the face of the company from door knocking and doing all that, because I'm a big believer in meeting people at where the business is. We do marketing and all that kind of other stuff, but I'm a true believer of belly to belly selling. And there's nothing like it. And especially if you have the credentials, like, a lot of people, bash door knockers and stuff like that. But I'm a master elite contractor. So if you can take and present that, I know the stigma of door knocking is like, oh, you don't have any business and stuff like that. But we choose our customers, and so I take pride in training my guys that and doing all that, because it's tough when you do a marketing plan and you got a guy and you're sending them 45 minutes this way and then 30 minutes that way. And bidding is just a race to the bottom. And so we just really enjoy doing that. And so yeah, in 2010, it kind of changed everything, and it just kind of refocused us. So I went from, I had to go from basically being the street salesman to, coming into the office and start learning actually how to run, my roofing business as a real business. Because I believe so many roofers don't really run it as a real business. The business just kind of runs them, and they kind of go from here to there. And so so I think that's where the oil and gas kind of came in and helped me, manage and run people. Because I probably had in oil and gas, 300 salesmen over the life of when I was there. So I had, managed. Now it's different because you're managing salesmen in an office setting versus out in the wild. And once your salesmen get out in the wild, it's kind of, you've got to have all kinds of different, checks and balances in order to make sure they're actually doing what they say they're going to do. So yeah, it was a big change, and moving inside and start running the business was definitely challenging and stuff like that. But it's been a fun ride, and it's been ups and downs. And the tough thing is I feel like we had a pretty robust training. A lot of people in our space, you go out in the truck with them, knock on a few doors, and then the next thing you know, you hand them a bunch of contracts and you say, come back with fruit. And so we, spend a lot of time, and all my guys go through all the GAF training. Some of them go through Hague training, not so much anymore. And try to do some portals and different things like that to train them. The tough thing for us is I think I was talking with our GAF rep the other day, and I think we have something like 32 spinoffs. And that gets kind of challenging, because for one, Oklahoma's barrier of entry is pretty low. I think now there's like 8,300 contracting licenses in the state of Oklahoma. So it's just gotten really challenging, harder to find salespeople, and it's not that, a couple of them were, tough where they went out and kind of did it nefariously, but most of them, came to me and talked and said they're going to go out on their own and do all that. And so that makes it a little better. I always gave them the opportunity to where I'd invest in them, but, they always, basically when somebody leaves, they're just cutting out the commission.
Yeah.
And, and not a lot of them end up with big businesses. A couple of them have, but, most of them just end up being kind of a mom and pop boutique.
Which is that there's a thing in business, right? You don't, it's what you want out of a business. Right. Maybe they just want to hunt all winter, right?
Exactly. Well, and the facts are is I still stay in touch with a lot of them. Some of them will call and ask questions. One of them called me the other night, and they're like, "Hey, Ponca City just got hit. My guys aren't willing to go up there. If your guys are going, storm looks good, and there's a bunch of old wood shakes up there, and and that's just nice, to kind of, when your old guys will stay in touch with you and stuff like that." So
that's a mentality, I think, from your perspective, right? You have to have an abundance mentality to have 32 spinoffs from your company. Like that's kind of, I don't know if you want to say it, but that's almost an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Like in a way, right? Like and if they continue to stay in business, like some of them will probably come and go, and like all businesses do, but I mean, that's something, right? That you've trained at least 32 people to at least give that a shot,
Yeah.
And so I think that's challenging. You talked about a couple things here. So I was listening to a clip from a podcast, or there's a guy named Dan Antonelli that I was listening to recently, and he wasn't talking specifically about roofing, but he said, from 0 to 300,000 in a business, you're just, it's you and you don't have the resources to really hire people. Then from 300,000 to 2 million is when you start getting the resources to hire people, and you have to learn how to manage. Then from 2 million to 10 million, the jump there. And he said where he felt a lot of entrepreneurs fail is that now it's not just managing people, it's training leaders and supporting leadership. How have you thought about, or how have you gone about that in your business?
So that's a very interesting topic, and I don't know if there's a set benchmark of,
of revenues or anything like that, but yeah.
Yeah. So over the years, where we see and make changes is when we get resistance in sales. So we'll start seeing a resistance in how many jobs that an individual salesman can do. And so at the beginning, we were just like everyone else, hey, come to work for me. You got to you got to knock the door. You got to close the deal. You got to meet the adjuster. You gotta sit the production. You gotta take back the materials. You gotta do all this stuff. I mean, hey, who wouldn't love that as a business owner? I'm going to hire a salesman, and he's going to run everything that he brings in. He's going to do. Well, we found a sticking point, and there's a couple different things. There's multiple sticking points throughout all of it, and I can't remember when it happened, but there was a point to where I had to decide, and I think it was in between the 3 to 5 million range, to where we had to say, I either need to scale back and stick here, or it's time to get to 10 million, and it wasn't, there was like no in between, because our costs had escalated so much that it's like, okay, well, I'm making the same amount of money that I was at 2 million, at 5 million, because I've had to add all these resources. And that's where I start talking about all the subscriptions and, but now we have, our model now is different. So we at some point decided that salesmen sell, production do production, estimators do estimating, and even adjusters do adjusting. And so we now have, I'm sure you could even go even further than what we have. And we have similar models on our commercial and residential side, but our salesman literally generates, whether it's self-generated or office generated, they go out, sign the contract, do the initial inspection, and then it's turned over to, it's not really a license adjuster, but we have people that basically act, like it, and they go meet the adjuster. So that way the salesman doesn't have to do that. They're out going and seeing other, continuing to go do what they do. Because what we do as business owners is we try to load people up with more than what they can handle. And that's when we find those pain points and start failing, is when we ask. And there's actually a theory. It's a theory when you ask people to do stuff that they can't do. Golly, I had it on the top of my head, but
that's all right.
Literally, when you get people outside their element, they just need to kind of stay in their lane. And that's how you actually run and manage a business properly, is by putting the right people in the right place and not putting on more than they can. And here's the problem is how do you make that decision? How do you make that decision? Because that decision costs money, and it's really challenging. So, and I think especially if you're in a storm market, it's even tougher, because what happens when there's no storm? But I always told a lot of the guys that work for me, I said, I actually hate it when we have storms, so, and I had one guy that spun off of me, that I'd known him since high school. And he didn't really spin off of me, but I actually helped him create the company. And was a part of it for a little while, and then he bought me out. But he called me a couple of years after after I had sold my portion to him, and he's like, I finally understand what you mean by you wish that the storms didn't happen, because what it does is whenever you're in a low barrier of entry market, a lot of they're like gremlins, hail falls, and then just different trades come out and they start their companies, or they had a dormant company, and now you're competing with somebody that isn't treating it, like a real business. Because I don't mind fair competition. I love to compete, but I want to compete, especially in a state that has damage, and, we have deductible laws and all that. So if it's apples to apples and I'm selling you a roof and your only out of pocket is $2,500, why are you not picking the Master Elite or the Owens Corning Platinum, or these guys that, because what do those guys have? We have service We have back end, and it's not about the roof. Anybody can put a roof on, but who's going to show up when it leaks? Who's going to show up in 5 years when it leaks? It's like I tell my guys, I said, I love to sell against companies that have long warranties and short businesses, because I tell them, I said, hey, these guys are offering a 10-year warranty, but they've been in business for 2 years. How can you do that? And I never offered a warranty that exceeded the years I was in the market, and so, there's just a lot of things like that. So scaling and going from, 300,000 to 10 million is just very challenging. But I think you have to make the commitment to your team and hire the people to help them. And if you don't, then you're setting yourself up for failure, because you can't count on that guy to do everything. The salesman can't be the entire organization. There has to be some back office, to help them, because they do hit a wall. And once we figured that out, so our highest year we've ever had, we went to 18 million. So we went, we had steady growth to 2009, 2010, and then really catapulted in 2010. And that's attributed to, just getting more people, and then we, like I said, we kind of hit a wall and we're running into some resistance, and ours was at 5-6 million. And that's when we actually, so it's like some of our top guys, we hired them assistants, that would run their calendar and do some other stuff like that would kind of cater to them so they could schedule, so it didn't just go straight to like, hey, we're going to get you somebody to run your adjustments. It went from, hey, we're going to get an assistant and you're going to help share in some of that cost too. But they're going to schedule your appointments. They're going to make sure you're on time. They're going to, because salesmen in a storm, it's chaos, because
chaos.
I remember one time my guys gave me a hard time when I was still selling. I guess one guy got in my truck and underneath my chair, and this is shame on me. This is bad for me, but I think I had something like 20 or 30 contracts that I had just kind of let fall to the wayside. But let's face it, we're all human and we make mistakes. And but I had so many contracts that, it's just shame on me. But that's also part of me, that I was trying to take on more than I should have, and I needed to hire help. And so once we started identifying some of those pain points, that's when we really kind of grew and were able to get to, that 18 million. Now on that 18 million, 6 million of it was commercial sales. So it's not like it was 18 million in residential. So I had, and those 6 million were my personal, jobs that I had. And so they were pretty big shopping centers and stuff like that I had cultivated relationships over the years. So our highest was really around that $12 million mark in truly residential sales. So, but
what do you think?
You gotta hire people to help.
Yeah, hiring people to help for sure, and I think that's an interesting point, and it falls right into what Dan Antonelli was saying. It's like you have to kind of step away from the day-to-day management and look at how to support those people. I think you're right. Like it's very in line with what you have done is in line with what he was kind of trying to express. How have you found the best way? Because there's the cradle to grave, sell it, produce it, collect the check, like the whole thing, which I've talked to some people like that model, and they believe that there's value in that model. Then I know a lot of good contractors that are like you that compartmentalize it, and with the compartmentalization and saying, hey, salespeople sell, production do production, the office do office stuff. Like when you start to do that, the challenge that I hear sometimes is the communication and expectations, right? A salesperson maybe gets to overextend the expectations, right? They may, and so how do you guys manage that? Because that's, I think, what a lot of people worry about, moving to separating it away, separating it out, is they worry that the salesperson is going to oversell and set expectations that production can't meet.
Well, I think that's where you have to have an engaged owner, and sometimes owners in the roofing space will back off. So Jim Johnson was a mentor of mine, and he always told me to inspect what you expect. And so, in my opinion, if you have salesmen that are yes men, you have to have an owner that follows that up and reviews each deal and then goes back to that salesman and says, no, I'm sorry, we don't have a good siding company right now. We cannot take this on. So you need to go back to your customer and say, I'm sorry, but I did this and I spoke out of turn. Now here's a great set of resources that we have that'll help you along the process to get, so it's not being the yes man, and then but the owner has got to step in and look at it. It's just like right now in some of our markets, we're dealing with margin creep. And so I'm having to sit there and look at jobs and say, no, we can't do this job. Like, you got to go back to your customer, offer them financing. Here's the deal that we're willing to do, but the insurance in this market is not sustainable to our model. So, so sometimes it's just about having the tough conversations. And I tell my guys, have the tough conversations first thing in the morning. If I tell you, you got to go do this, then let's get it done in the morning, because then the rest of your day is just an absolute breeze. But if I were to start over again and say, step one, how do I start growing my business? I'm going to start figuring out from the jump street is how to get my top guys an assistant. So I don't even go into the realm of additional or breaking things off. I just start with an assistant. Hey, here's somebody that's going to help you schedule. Here's, and they could say, well, that's their job. They need to do that. Okay, well, share the cost with them. Say, hey, could you sell more if you had more time? And the answer is yes, and they would love to just be salesmen. If they're good at sales and you offer them an opportunity to just do sales, oh man, that'd be great. So I would say if you're looking to scale your company, start by helping your top guy, the guys that generate business, because in my opinion, nothing in the world is done until a sale is made. So if I can help those guys make more sales, and that's what happened. I had a guy, he started another company and he's doing phenomenal. He was the first one that we tested, the assistant with, and man, he thrived. He just absolutely thrived. Now, not everybody, set some qualifications for who gets an assistant. Yeah. Like, hey, you gotta do this, or man, if you don't do 1.5 million a year, like because 1.5 million is the new 1 million, because, or even 2 million. The $1 million rep is now, unfortunately not what they.
Yeah, inflation. Yeah.
Because I've seen it from our jobs going from 14 to 27, $28,000 hours. It's just the days of the $1 million top producer are not there anymore.
Yeah. I love what you said, and Jim Johnson's awesome, and so what checks and balances do you put in place that do you pay attention to? Like what are those checks and balances that you're putting in place with the from the sales side, from the production side, all the way through your business? What are you doing there?
Well, at Mallard, we currently use AccuLynx, so we have a lot of that, so we see, job forecasting and all that stuff. And so we'll see margin creep there. And then we've got whiteboards all over the office, from sales to production to you name it. Cause it's one thing to have, software, but it's also another thing to see it globally in front of you, because let's face it, I'm 47, so I come from the, spiral notebooks and doing all that. So I like, because whenever I was out street selling, every day I just flip through my book, because, one thing residential guys don't do is they don't follow up. So that's a big thing there. So, but our checks and balances really all kind of come through AccuLynx. And then we use, like I said, we use a canvassing app called Teros currently. So we're watching the guys daily, how many doors are they knocking? How many opportunities are they getting? How many pitches are they, putting out there? And then we use different communication apps. So we use like GroupMe. I'm sure everybody uses GroupMe, And then I privately text, each sales member around 3 o'clock. Hey, shoot me a picture of where you're at, what's going on, and stuff like that. And then we also have some checks and balances for inbound leads. So we'll use like Google Sheets, and we can kind of see, if we're doing a weather campaign, if we're doing, we're giving away a Jeep at the end of a year to a customer of ours. So we did a Jeep Gladiator, and we're giving it away. So, there's a scan app on the side of it. So as it drives around and people, get on the link and whatever. So we're checking that. And then in production, we get, we still do some things old school. So we have AccuLinks, but we also have white folders, and on those white folders, it has a breakdown. We still do paper stuff. I mean, can we do it better? Probably. But we just have our ways of doing it. And, and some of the tough things that's kind of coming into our space is mortgage companies and insurance companies delaying the final payment. So, we've been working with, I can't remember his name, but Adam's finance guy, because we're really trying to, push into the financing, which we've always used as an excuse. Oh, we're in a hail market, who's going to finance, but it's just an excuse, So we're really kind of dialing down on that to try to shorten our accounts receivable, because it's just getting out of control with the mortgage companies. And I know
It's a
they're
big float.
the apps, but I'm one of the guys that likes to try to figure it out before I really go to an app, because I don't want to be reliant on, just somebody's process. So in-house we have somebody that handles mortgages. So as we're, right when they file a claim, we're trying to, get to the lost draft department and get the information that they have, because dude, it's just such a mess right now with the delay, deny, and defend, and the mortgage companies wanting to pay out, 30% at a time, and just all these different problems that we keep running into. And then the carriers not wanting to pay for code coverage or paid while incurred. And now they're coming up with a roof payment schedule. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's basically,
I haven't.
Yeah. So basically they're coming up with an immediate, prorated system that kind of kicks in. And even though it's a replacement cost policy, it kicks into a prorated thing and like starts from day one on a roof payment schedule. It's just, there's so many things, but like I'm trying to combat that. So I've reached out to GAF, because, if you do an enhanced warranty, then that's a limited lifetime non-prorated warranty. So I'm like, can I get this non-prorated warranty and then say, hey, carrier, I appreciate that you're doing a roof payment schedule, but they don't have a roof that depreciates, so like I'm just one of the ones that's always trying to, figure out, like I was a big proponent of the decking laws in Oklahoma, and I'm on the, I just recently, I think last week, got added to the Oklahoma, ORCA's legislative committee, to kind of help with that. 'Cause like the laws are changing, and they're not changing in a good way, and it's not about me. The laws aren't for me. They're for my policy, or not my policy holders, or for my customers, which are policy holders, and they just don't know the things that are coming through. And then the states want to, like Texas has, added the PA, and now they're trying to do that in Oklahoma. And it's not good for the consumer. And they don't have anybody fighting for them. So
they don't. And the insurance lobby is always at the Capitol.
Oh yeah.
I promise you, they're there every day. So you need to be there also.
I reach out to the Oklahoma Insurance Commissioner all the time via Facebook, and I went and met with him up in his office after he got elected, and was kind of telling him about some things that I was seeing, and I'll send him something. He's like, oh yeah, we need to know that. And I'm like, well, you came from the insurance side. You didn't come from the policyholder side. So, I was like, man, your constituents, you gotta protect them. And he's like, oh, we're doing a bunch of good things for them. And I was like, whatever, I mean. We'll just keep, so on the 4-star side, we actually are part of a lobbyist group, in Oklahoma and Arkansas. And we speak, I don't know if it's every other week, but we speak constantly with them on, the laws that are coming through, because so many of these things just get stuck in the back of a bill. And, it just, does it get resistance or does it not? So we've got to, we have to actively pursue and be the aggressor when it comes to this kind of stuff, or the insurance companies are just going to completely change our space, which they do it every time. Every time we beat them, they change policy. Every time they beat us, we change our policy. And it's just about,
it's a constant. It's just a constant back and forth, right? Yeah. It's a constant back and forth. But if you don't have the back and forth, there's going to be a problem, because then it's just back or forth, right? Like there's like it only,
both sides are working in the shadows. I mean,
that's right.
The roofing companies are working in the shadows, and the insurance companies, it's everybody's making moves. It's just, and there's got to be a balance. I just don't know what that balance is. And as long as there's greed, it's going to be challenging for both sides to come together. And I think there's a happy median somewhere. I mean, I really think there is. And I think the hard part is the preferred service provider programs, because I think there's, and we're a part of a few of those, or we're just becoming a part of a few of those. But, it's just a tough space. Anytime you're trying to pull money out of one and give it to another. But there has to be protection for the policyholder or the homeowner, because, it just can't be one-sided. It can't be all contractor. It can't be all insurance. And I don't know exactly what that is going to look like in the end, but definitely the bigger.
What are some of the things that have come through that you've seen get contested that were worrisome?
Well, right now, Oklahoma is trying to get the laws like so we had the deductible thing that came through, which I don't, tomato on the deductible, because we always, attempted to collect it or financed it or whatever the case may be. Yep. I mean, I always tell a customer, they'll say, hey, are you gonna cover my deductible? And I said, well, I guess I missed the meeting. And he's like, what do you mean? What meeting? And I said, the meeting where you signed up for this deductible with your insurance agent. I said, have me in on that meeting next time, and I'll tell you what I can afford. I said, you don't just get go get a 2% deductible and expect me to cover it. I mean, I don't know what you guys think is in this. I mean, yes, it's, and here's the thing. Okay, let's say there's 50% or 55% margin or 45% margin. But if you want me to run my business like a business, and it's not there, I have to have that. If I don't have that, then, because I net 5 to 12%, depending on if I have a great year or an okay year. So at the end of the day, if I don't get 45, 55, 65% margins, because a lot of, and this is where this industry is kind of skewed from the salesman to the company and all that stuff, because we look at it on a per job basis, and that's not how you run a company, because everybody's so focused on this job. Okay, well, if we're going to focus on a job, then I need to be able to, and you agree to it, salesman, that I get to cover my costs on that job. So what did my production cost? What did my estimating team cost? What did my rent cost? What did my insurance cost? What did the vehicles, all these other costs, because all that is part of a job cost. It's just when it comes to figuring commission, nobody wants to add that in there. So it's a challenging thing. And that's why, we predominantly gone back to, we went to the whole overhead and profit split and all that stuff. And then we've just gone back to, just a standard off the top and kind of, it's not that I don't, I want to pay the salesman as much as they can, but as you start pulling things away from them and just allowing them to sell, then there's got to be a give and take in order for it to work, or else I'm just going to continue to have margin creep on the business. But yet, if I'm doing all these things to help them go get more sales, there just has to be, a share the wealth kind of mentality.
How do you have that conversation? How, I guess it's, with the sales reps, how do you make sure that they understand this is the true cost of running the business? And, so this is why we have to adjust our commission or something like that.
I mean, as long as you're transparent with them, and like I said, if you're willing to have every hard conversation with them, not just the ones about my money, if it's always about taking money away from the rep, then it's never going to be a good situation. Or if you're always telling your sales rep, because this is a common thing. Oh, we're not making any money. Okay, well, if you're not making any money, why do you got a big truck? Why do you got a lake house? Why do you got all these things?
That's right.
If you want to tell them you don't have any money, act like you don't got any money. So I think it's just, it's kind of what I said earlier. It's about having the hard conversations first. And sometimes just as an owner, and a lot of times the owners are scared to have conversations with their top producers because they don't want to lose them. But I think, if you have those tough conversations with them and keep them informed of what's really going on in your organization, then they're going to have, emotionally invested their time and effort and energy into you that they're going to be able to listen to you, as long as you're genuine. If you're always, like I said, if you're always being greedy and trying to cut them out, then I think it's problematic. And that guy's probably not having the call or that talk with his people. So,
yeah.
And you have to be willing to allow them to speak freely too. And that's like, I tell my guys, tell me to, excuse my French, tell me to F off. I said, have those conversations. Like, if you don't like something I'm doing, tell me, and then I'll work you through, why we're doing what we're doing. It's just, but if they don't have permission to speak freely, and I know there's this respect and chain of command thing, but like sometimes you just have to have real conversations, because it's not always huge margins. Sometimes it is tough. If you've gone 2 years without a storm and you're trying to figure out how to, make it, and you're dealing with storm statutes and all those different items, so I think as long as you have a good respect for your people and can have those good conversations, I think you just have to have the guts to have them.
So you have a lot of years in business. There's been a lot of good years and a lot of good storm years and a lot of off storm years, right?
Yeah.
What have you learned about how to survive the off years?
So I feel like there's 3 parts to every storm. I feel like, and it may even extrapolate further than this, but I truly believe that the first third of the customers goes with the first guy that knocks on the door. The second third is watching. They're talking to you, but they're watching who's clean, who's showing up, who's communicating well with the homeowners and stuff like that. And in that, there's also the guys that are looking to make money too, or do something along those lines, a little shady, in that third. But then there's the third that I really love, and that's the guys that hide. You knock on their door and they're looking through the window, and they don't get anything done. They lock up, they freeze, and they're done. So we love going back into those areas a year later, or as the statute's expiring, and doing, marketing and stuff in there with those people, because those are customers that are like, oh yeah, I remember when everybody got their roofs. Yeah, we just forgot about it and didn't take care of it. Well, now you don't have all the stormtroopers in there, and now you have a captivated audience, and you can go in and get those customers and help walk them through the process and help them not lose their benefits that they're coming up on. So that's why I made a comment earlier that I'd rather have no storm, but I need a storm every few years to renew the statute. And so that's how, we've been very good. We get in the maps, we spend time in it. we evaluate them. We understand that the maps aren't gospel, and you got to get out there and find the damage, because there's always, and roofing salesmen, and I love them for this, is they're like a squirrel, and they just, another storm hits and they go and they leave that storm, and it's there for the picking for the guys that are consistent, and so that's where my guys have really made hay, is we stay focused on, keeping an eye on where all the storms were that are within the statute period. And then we go back and work those areas, and then we spend a lot of time on objection handling and how to defeat it before it even comes up. So as we knock on doors and stuff like that, we hear the same thing over and over again. And so we start defeating those objections before they come up. And really, we used to wear capes in this industry, and now we wear masks. But those third of the people you can go back and wear capes for, and so I don't know if you understand what I'm saying there, but at one point in time, we were the hero. And then now we've become the villain because there's so many people in our space. And I don't know if that's from private equity or low barrier of entry. But and this may ruffle some feathers, but, one thing I want to do in Oklahoma is I want every single roofing salesman to hold a license. And I want the roofing company to be a broker, like a real estate company. I want them to have to hang their license at why is it different for plumbers? Why is it different for electricians? Why is one of the most important trades on a home so unregulated? And I'm not for regulation and oversight, but I'm for protecting the consumer. And so when you have, we're notorious for an industry full of salesmen that are felons, and I'm not saying a felon is a bad person. I mean, there's, I've met some great people that have had some bad experiences that have turned their life around. And unfortunately, that is a scar on their record, but they're great people. But I truly want to see some kind of educational program for sales reps, because so many of these guys come in and sell and they don't treat it like a career, but this is absolute life-changing money. Like if you treat this like a career and show up and open the hardest door that you have, which is your car door, and go out and do it. I've seen people go from making $8 an hour to making over $100,000 a year, in this industry, time and time and time again. And so I just wish that it was treated more like a life, like a lifelong career, and not just like something to do in your spare time whenever a hailstorm hits.
There's a lot to that, but it would be interesting too. That would be an interesting model for a sales rep to at least have some sort of certification. Because really, in a lot of cases, especially when the storms hit, and it's like, hey, just hire everyone and anyone that you can to go and knock on doors, right? You're a warm body, go knock, and the experience that they have, or there has to be a balance, because there are going to be, you started out not knowing a lot either, right? But having some sort of training would be awesome. How do you train your team?
Now we use a lot of Adam's material. Yep. In the past, I've always believed in coaching. I've always believed in doing stuff like that. So I've always had like a Jim Johnson or Adam involved, because especially since I don't come from the space. I mean, I come from sales. I've been a commission salesman ever since I was 19 years old, so I understand and love sales psychology and stuff like that. But, the hard thing is like, where do you, and this is what we're struggling with right now, is people having sales acumen. So we're actually having to go back and literally train everything. And so right now our full training program is really Adam. And then we also, and then we go into all the GAFs. So they get all the GAF certifications and go through the book there and do that. And then we do We were doing like daily sales meetings, but that's just too much. It's really good for maybe one sales meeting a week for, all the guys, and then new guys, maybe a sales meeting on like a Thursday. So that's kind of what we do. Now on our 4-star, we have a full training portal. Like we have videos that we've recorded. Right now we're developing objection handling with AI. We're doing that. We're doing a full robust training with a company called Next Thought. Like we're developing a full model of all that. So, because that's really what our space is missing is training, and how do you train right? Because if you just put them out there with contracts and say, go sign some stuff, what are they telling the customers? What kind of experience are you giving them? And so typically we have, about 2 weeks of in-house training. Now they'll go out and shadow, after about 3 days, they'll start going out and shadowing. But then we'll also, then we'll have about 2 weeks of field training where the managers, at least in the area with them, they may not be standing right behind them, but if they get an inspection or something like that, that manager will come back over and hang out with them. And then we use we put a lot of training stuff in GroupMe. So in GroupMe, you can create all these different categories in there. And so we have different things that they can quick reference, whether it's GAF or certainty stuff in there. And then we have different motivational stuff. We have an objection handling tab in there. So the guys can, if they're running into something, they can post it, and then people can get right back to them and do that. And there's always things that you can make better on your training. But the tough thing is, like, if you're going to have guys that are door knocking and street and doing belly to belly selling, you have to get them in the field, because there's no better information than how they handle rejection. And I played baseball in high school, so I consider baseball a failing sport. So if you hit 300 in the MLB, you're going to potentially be a Hall of Famer, right? So that means you failed 7 out of 10 times. Now, maybe you hit the ball hard, maybe you struck out, whatever, but you had to deal with rejection. So I felt like that helped me, through the process by being an athlete and in a failing sport, that, hey, I only have to be successful 3 out of 10 times to change my life. And so understanding that, it's an awesome opportunity, but how do you train yourself from a mindset? So that's one thing we work on too, is, hey, what's your mindset? It's not just about, how do we sell? How do we do this? It's how do we pick ourselves up after getting the door slammed in our face? How do we pick ourselves up if we were called a racial slur? How do we pick ourselves up if we had a gun pulled on us? I know these are crazy things, but this happens. You're dealing with people at their home, on their turf, and it's real. From yelling at you to following you down the street with a camera to calling the police on you. This is one of the toughest jobs in America, I believe. So how do you support them, and how do you not belittle them in the process, and how do you help their mindset? And so I know one thing I think this is maybe from you guys, but, I really try to, hey, what did you do good today? What can you do better? And so I try to text that to, and this is where the owner has to be engaged personally in his business, because unless you're $100 million roofing company, you better know who your people are. And 100 is probably ridiculous, but let's say 20 million, you better know who your people are, and at least show them that you care. And if a simple text at, 7 o'clock at night, as the sun's going down, what'd you do good? What can you do better? How can I help you in your journey? And just being there for those, and I try to do that same thing with my kids. I've done that over and over and over again. With them, I'll leave a note in their car. How do you just stimulate and create, positive energy in in their minds and stuff like that. So a big aspect of it is the mental side, because if you're lost on the mental side, or you don't believe in the product, or I can't sell this, and you go knock on a door, it doesn't work. So also we try to do role playing and stuff like that before we go out in the field. Hey, let's, I talk to him. I'm like, Steph Curry has taken, and I can't remember the number. It's something like he's recorded his practice shots, and I think it's like 3 million shots since high school to take 3,400 shots in the NBA, so it's, and I can't remember if it was Dion that said it, but he said, don't practice till you get it right. Practice till you can't get it wrong. And so that is, so when I did phone sales, I had the old tape recorder and I would record myself, and so if I was saying too much or whatever the case may be, I knew what I was doing. So we actually have we'll mic up the guys. Like if I go out with the guys, I mic them up at the door. And so I'm sitting in the car because what I don't want to do is I don't want too many people at the door.
Yeah.
So we mic them up, they're mic'd up, and then they come back and they listen, so I'll video, and you'll hear the mic and you'll see their, I talked to Larry, I talked to Randy, and all that stuff. And then we hear it and then they come back to the car and they're like, oh my God, why did I do that? But you've got to embarrass yourself. You've got to get in front of the mirror. You've got to pitch your girlfriend, your wife, your boyfriend, whatever the case may be. If you're not doing it over and over again, why are you going to be able to be successful and go out and knock on a door and just all of a sudden say magical words and you're up on the roof and you're signing a contract? It's just, it's fool's gold to think that you're going to do that. So it's, and sometimes it takes the owner. Did the owner do that? What did the owner do to be successful? Because how can he ask them to do something that he never did? And because that's where challenging, meets the road is how can I train people in a way that I never even thought of that myself? So I think each individual owner has to figure out why they were successful and how they can train that, and not necessarily, you can always take bits and pieces from other people. You may take bits and pieces from this podcast.
I have notes, right?
But you've got to believe in what made you successful, and then you have to train to that.
Yeah.
But I truly believe reps and repetitions are key, and if they're unwilling to do that and unwilling, we do the role play right there with all the guys in the room, and they go outside and knock on the conference room door and pitch, because if you can't pitch, it's harder to pitch your peers, I promise you, than it is because they're judging you from the beginning. Because, homeowners don't go to the HOA and sit around and think about objections to come up with for when the roofers show up.
No.
They don't do it, so it's shame on us, because there's always a sale made. Us or them, who's closing the deal. And I think if you do repetition, then those objection handlings just become second nature, and all that. So
that's awesome.
I think that's a great way to train.
It is. And the repetitions are what build the skill, right? It's not, you could go through a training, but you still don't know it. It's you could go to college and get a degree, but you're still not an excellent whatever you got your degree in, right? You still have to go and do it on the job until you get great at it. You'd mentioned earlier the differentiation, and I think this is something that a lot of contractors overlook, is the service. A lot of people can put on a roof, some better than others, but a lot of people can really build a quality roof, right? They can really put a quality roof on. Or you're using the same subs, so both of your subs are, the service is the differentiation. I just want you to kind of speak through your thoughts on how to create an exceptional experience for the homeowner.
So what we have is in each market that we're in, we have somebody that will handle just leak repair. So yesterday it rained like 5 inches in Oklahoma in like 2 hours. So you're going to find all your problems, so yeah, we had a number of leak calls yesterday, and we just, you gotta put somebody in that space, and so here's the key is, what do you do with them when you're not leaking, and stuff like that. So what do our guys do? They mow the yard. They take care of other things like that. They organize, they may sell shingles on Facebook Marketplace, to offset some of the costs, because we all have a boneyard. So how do you create an opportunity, because some of these guys may not have a lot of service. I mean, we have a lot of service because, let's face it, construction, we're going to do things wrong. It just is what it is. And if you use subs to think that they're going to service their warranties, you're a fool. Because one, they'll service them as long as you're paying them. As soon as they're not doing a job for you, they don't really service their warranties. So in my opinion, it's better to send an in-house person and back charge the crew for, if they did the flashing wrong, or, high nailed some shingles and they blew off, or whatever the case may be. So, but run some Google ads for service, if you want to offset some of that, if you don't have enough business to do that, get something to where they're going out and getting some opportunities. Everybody's pipe flashings that's been on the roof for more than 5 years need to be replaced. I mean, there's always something that you can find in maintenance and repair. Even if you're going out and sending them to do like pre-storm checklists, or, add gutter cleaning to your services, different things like that you can keep them occupied. But, so, and kind of where I came up with this, I've hired a couple people to do things for me personally that ended up not having a service department. So one person is my swimming pool company. I hired them to build my pool and do all this, but they didn't have a service back end side that I found out later. And I was like, I'm never going to work with a company that doesn't have somebody to service their own product, because if I can't call them and I've got to call somebody else, then it's immediately costing me money. Right. But if I have a company, because I can't tell you how much service work we do that I don't even charge for. We had a customer call us the other day. We put their roof on like 8 years ago. They had 3 ridge cap shingles blow off, and, we had some tornadoes and stuff like that. And I mean, you can pull up our reviews. They posted a review the other day. They're like, hey, we didn't know if his warranty worked, and it could have easily been warranty or not warranty. But Mallard came out and they looked at it and said, hey, we've got some of this in the yard. We'll just come throw it back on. But that's also solidifying them as my customer for the next round. So sometimes I lose money today to win opportunities tomorrow. And so that's kind of that too, is to have those things, because let's say you have a crew and it's 8 years old and you're sending them out. Oh, I need you to go fix this ridge cap. Well, you're going to be $250 in it, where I have a guy that's on salary, and so I really don't have any additional cost in going and doing that. So I feel like I position myself a little bit better, than the next, because I can also say, look, if you have this type of issue, I can have a certain response time as well. Hey, I'm going to have a same day response time, where if I'm relying on the crew, what if they're 45 minutes away roofing in another town for another company, because that's the thing. Let's face it, I use subs. Everybody uses subs. Yeah. I mean, there's people that advertise that they use the same subs that I do. They're like, oh yeah, our subs are the same ones as Mallard Construction. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, I saw a post on Level the Playing Field the other day about the same thing. It's like, oh yeah, we use the same subs as the big guys. And they said something, and we're paying $20 less a square. I was like, oh, here we go. Let's just stir the pot some more.
Why not?
So I think a service guy is kind of paramount, even if you have to kind of bite the bullet,
Yep.
and pay somebody, five to 700 a week, I mean, you can drum up $500 to $700 worth of business. And you can also do that by, how many roofs do you get on that have not enough damage, but still have deferred maintenance? So if you put that into your CRM and that drops down to your service guy and he provides an estimate, I mean, you're going to win some stuff like that too, because I'll tell you, customers that you give a clean bill of health become great customers, because they're also like, oh, you're an honest roofer. You're not trying to get me to file a frivolous claim, on my policy.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, we're in the area because a hail map showed that there's reason for me to be there. So if I give you a clean bill of health, I mean, kudos to the companies that do that.
Yeah, it builds that trust, right? It's more impactful when you tell people you don't need their business, right? A lot of times it's so much more impactful. What do you think the greatest insight is that you can share with the audience that's helped you find success with Mallard and with 4-Star?
I think just doing what you say you're going to do it. When just converting, and I just believe I've been blessed with a lot of different opportunities, and just the fact to say yes sometimes to things that you're not used to or getting outside your comfort zone. And then taking the time to educate yourself on those opportunities when they come up. I never set out to be a roofer. I thought I was going to do oil and gas my whole life and all that stuff. And now it's funny, me and my partner at 4-Star, we talk about, we'll make investments in all kinds of stuff. And if it's not the double R's, then why are we doing it? Because we lose money in it all the time. And the double R's is roofing and real estate. And so because we'll get into, I don't know, an oil and gas deal. We got into a CBD deal. We got into medical devices, all this stuff. And then it always is a bust, and we just go back to like, well, why don't we just put more money into our roofing company to continue to scale it? And so I'll tell you one thing that's led to a big part of our success lately is both companies have in-house recruiting. So we have at 4-Star, I have 3 in-house recruiters, and at Mallard I have 1, and that's all they do. That's their whole job is recruit. And it's not for the faint of heart. It's expensive, but what do you hear all the time? The ABCs of selling, right? Always be closing.
Yeah.
So I live by ABR, always be recruiting, because I don't know if everybody's aware, and everybody wants everybody to be a lifer, but the average salesman lasts 18 to 36 months in any organization, roofing, car sales, I don't care what it is. That's the life cycle of a roofing salesman. And if you get 37 months, thank God and say your prayers and do all that. But if you believe that they're going to be there forever, you're fooling yourself. And that's just the facts, because they're going to outgrow you. The grass is going to be greener. You're going to do something. You're going to get complacent as an owner and not treat them, because your top guy is not always going to be your top guy. And then he's going to lose that, you're going to lose that love and feeling for him. And he's going to start wandering, because every day that my guys are in the field, they get a job offer every day. So, and if you're a top company in your market, it's even worse, because you have a target on your back, because if you train, they want your people and they're going to do anything they can to steal them. Just a fact. I've been through it, and people can say, it's not going to happen to me, but it is going to happen to you. And there are going to be spinoffs, and they are going to steal your people. And here's the thing. Even if they just get in their head and talk to them about a commission structure, that comes back to you, and so then you're having the conversation and potentially having to give up more. So you've got to take care of your people, and you've got to understand that unfortunately you'll have to replace them at some point in time, because at the end of the day, whatever your company name is called, that's what's going to be there. And so how do you protect it? How do you continue to make it grow? And how do you create a culture that will get those people to maybe be on the 36 month? And I felt very complacent, because I had guys that were with me for 10 years and 7 years and 6 years, because we had a great culture, and so we had to kind of rebuild, and we've kind of scaled it back to more of a mom and pop, because so 2 years ago we had a great year. And 4 of my top guys, not nefariously, but came to me and said, hey, we're going to go out on our own. And they didn't start a company together. They all started individual companies, and so I kind of chuckle about it, because I am flattered by it. We kind of joke around internally that I'm the Bill Belichick of in Oklahoma City, which is kind of a joke, but it's kind of funny. Our coaching tree is pretty phenomenal. And like I said, I stay in touch with several of them, and when we just discuss strategy and give advice, and we just love to compete with each other. So, but yeah, I think recruiting is a big key to the survival of your company, because it will get stagnant, and your top guy won't always be your top guy. I mean, it's a tough pill to swallow, because we all think we're great owners, and we all think we provide the unique opportunity, but they just grow, and they want more, especially the guys that are really good. They want more. They want what you have. And like I said, as long as they do it, I'm proud that they go out and do it. But if they try to take what's mine, then we've got a problem. So,
for sure.
And that's only happened a couple of times. So,
yeah.
So now it happened pretty big at 4-star, but commercial's a different animal. Roofing, there's a common word in both of them, which is roofing, commercial roofing, residential roofing, but they are not the same in any shape or form.
Not at all. I'll have to have you back on, and we'll just discuss commercial roofing for an hour. John, this has been amazing, man. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. If you would like to generate more revenue through your digital marketing efforts, please visit roofermarketers.com to get a copy of the book, The Best Known Roofer. Also, check the training section of the website for guides on everything from running effective pay-per-click ads to how to properly set up your Google My Business listing. Thanks for listening.